Hello and welcome back to Lately Fashionable. I have a treat for you today. We are going to look at and discuss my collection of vintage gloves. If you have been watching my shorts or my TikToks or my reels, you will know that I have 21 pairs of gloves and that I have been spending this last month of my year of dressing vintage wearing a different pair of gloves every day. Of course, there have been some repeats because there are 28 days in the last month of my year of dressing vintage, and 21 is less than that. So I have already reworn several pairs, but the goal was not to wear a different pair every single day. The goal was to wear my gloves, and I have been doing that, and it's been making me really happy. And people seem to really enjoy this short series, so I thought it would be good to do a full video where I can show off and examine the gloves in a little more detail. And I can tell you where I got them. This first pair, I actually don't know where they came from. They are knit, and they're made of something that is hard. Like, the texture of these is actually kind of a sensory nightmare for me, which is partly why I haven't worn them yet. Another part of the reason is they do need some repair, and I do not know how to properly repair them. So I don't really want to wear them and risk damaging them further before they can be repaired. There's also some staining which has been there since I got them, and I don't remember where I got them or when. They are the oldest. They're not the oldest gloves in my collection, but they are the ones I've had the longest. Anyway, the stain on this one finger is hard. It's like crunchy. And like I said, the material itself is not soft. I would guess it's maybe a nylon yarn. It has absolutely no fluff or softness. I have worn these a few times and they have gotten discolored in the fingers because of use, and I have washed them and they've gotten a little better. But yeah, not my favorite pair. That's okay. I have several favorites in the next set of pairs. Okay, so I should tell the story first. Back in 2012, my mom gave me a cardboard box and it was labeled Old Slips. It was given to her by the husband of the owner of the slips. She had died many years prior, and I guess this box had been sitting on a shelf in his closet for years and years, and he couldn't bear to look at it. And he gave it to my mom thinking, she sews, she can do something with these. And then she passed them to me. I opened it up and, true to the label, it was full of old slips. And it also had several pairs of gloves, which to me were just a treasure trove. I had an Etsy store at the time, and so I did list several of the pairs of gloves to sell, and I did sell a few of them. But most of them I did not sell, either because I didn't want to list them because they were just a little too special and I wanted to keep them, or nobody bought them and I took the listings down eventually. I did give away a few pairs from that group of gloves at the vintage exchange I went to back in January. I don't have pictures of those, but I know I did keep ones that were unique among the collection that I knew I wanted to keep. And I gave away ones that were kind of duplicates of ones that I was keeping because I felt like I didn't need all of them. I don't regret giving them away. I don't regret the ones that I sold, but I do wish I had pictures of them to show you. I do not. And I do still have several of the slips in my collection as well. I did sell some of those on Etsy, but I kept several and they fit me now. They were too big when I originally got them, but I have grown and matured. And I do sometimes wear them under my vintage clothes. Mostly I wear slips that I've made myself, but occasionally it's fun to put on a fancy one. Maybe I should do a video about those slips at some point. I will not be modeling them. Anyway, back to the gloves. Most of the gloves in this woman's collection are plain cotton, and they're mostly all white, but I'm going to start with this pair, which is pale blue. I love them. They have mother of pearl buttons, which came off recently when I wore them and I had to sew them back on, and there was evidence that they had come off and been re-sewn on before. I love the color of these. I love blue. They're comfortable, they fit me well, they're very sweet. Now most of the pairs in here are going to be white, and most of the ones that I kept are because they had some kind of decoration that just made them special and lovely. This pair has some little sprigs of leaves embroidery and beads, some of which have been lost in the intervening years, and some of which are discolored. But they're still very sweet. And I just realized this pair, and there's another pair in here I'll show you, has an interesting seam placement. There's only one seam, and it's down the top of the hand rather than along the side, which I find fascinating. I would love to pattern one of these. And then that seam is open at the wrist where it's been hemmed for a little bit of flare. Okay, next pair. I love these with the little scallops and the tiny little bow. They're just so sweet. This pair is also very comfortable, and I have worn them a couple of times because they're really nice to reach for. They're a good everyday pair of gloves, just because they fit me so well and they're really comfortable to wear. I also love how you can see that these have all been hand stitched, and the embellishment is hand stitched as well. There's just so much care put into making these. Okay, this pair is not actually white. It's a kind of an ecru color, and it also has that top of hand seam placement, which I find so fascinating. These are a little bit shorter than the other pair, so the seam opens up into a little vent over the top of the hand. And it has these really sweet flowers embroidered around the hem and vent. They're just so lovely. All right, this is one of my favorite pairs. I'm going to say that a lot. But these have some really sweet flower embroidery on the top of the hand, as well as some lines of, I forget the term, but it's like a lace making stitch. And I just find that so delightful. Does make them a little delicate though, so these are not everyday gloves. Those are a Sunday pair. As is this one. These also have that same lacy look, and they're even more delicate because this one has been repaired at least once. And then it has these French knots along the swirls going up into the fingers. It's a very simple design, but so effective. They just feel so fancy. And they're just cotton gloves. All right, now getting even fancier. These are like evening gloves. Oh, I love them so much. Now these have actual lace inserted into the seam, and then beads and tiny little rhinestones set in along the lace. I have not yet found an occasion to wear these for my month of gloves, but oh, I must. They're so beautiful. A couple of the beads and rhinestones have disappeared, so they are rather delicate, and I'm a little scared to wear them actually. They're just so special. I love them. Okay, and now we have a very fun pair embroidered with blue cherries. At least I think they're supposed to be cherries. I'm not sure why they're blue, but I love blue, so I'm not going to complain. These have a little pearl button at the wrist, which is very difficult to button on yourself when you're already wearing a glove on your other hand. Now these, I can tell, are machine stitched, and it's quite fascinating how some of the seams are turned inside and some are stitched with the raw edges on the outside. Like the thumb Okay, I can see that it's a machine chain stitch. So this was top stitched to set in the thumb. That must have been so tricky to do in this tight little corner here. I am very impressed by glove making in general, and this pair in particular. And then on the fingers, we have the inner seams stitched right sides together and turned right side out, and then the seams on the top of the fingers are done the same way as the thumb, where they're top stitched, so as to make the design as uninterrupted as possible, I believe. Quite fascinating, quite pretty. By the way, I should mention that I am attempting to film this in the morning before my kids are awake. They don't have school today. So if I abruptly disappear and reappear with different lighting and or a different outfit, I did not succeed. Okay, last pair of the white cotton gloves. Now these, unfortunately, have some dye transfer from the next pair, which I remember was lying on top of them when they were all together in that box for however many years. So when I store my gloves, I do keep pieces of tissue paper in between the dyed gloves and the white ones, so as to avoid more dye transfer in the future. Now, I haven't worn this pair yet because of the dye transfer, but I do want to. I really love them, and I plan to fix this discoloration issue by over-dyeing them. And I think I'm going to go for a pinky purple mauve color because that's what is already there, and I think if I try to match that color with more intensity, that will blend in nicely. And I think I can do that because I've done it before, but we'll come back to that. This is the culprit of the dye transfer, and I can't be mad at them because they are so pretty. I think this was the only bold colored pair of gloves that was in that box. They are a beautiful navy. They are, I think, a nylon. Oh, wait, there's a label inside. My goodness. It does say nylon. Huh, I was right. Nylon, 7.5, made in USA. Anyway, I love the ruffles on these. The little scalloped ruffle going up the hand and continuing around the hem. These are really fun to wear. They are not warm. They are nylon, but they just make me feel so fancy. Okay, now I have two pairs that did come from that same box that I successfully dyed, because this pair, I remember, had some yellowing, some discoloration, and I couldn't wash it out, so I thought I should just dye them to match the discoloration. And that's what I did. I don't remember if this pair also had some staining, or if I just threw them in because I had extra dye and I wanted another pair. These do not really fit me. I think they're the only pair that are actually too small for me. And I don't think it's because I dyed them. I think they were too small before. But they are really cute. They do need some repair because they've got a couple pop seams. But I really love them in this bright mustard color. Now, I dyed these originally because at the time I was doing a lot of Regency costuming, and I had a lot of yellow in my Regency wardrobe, and I thought it'd be fun to have some nice bright yellow gloves. And I've worn this pair several times with my Regency clothing. I have not yet worn them with my vintage clothing, so I'm going to need to find an outfit that these go with. I have one in mind, but I need warmer weather back before I can wear that. I do love how the embroidery dyed a slightly brighter color than the fabric around it. And of course the beads did not dye at all, so they actually stand out more than they did before they were dyed. So with the success of dyeing discolored gloves once before, I think I will be able to dye that other pair. Just realized these have a label in them too. Cotton, wear right, number 120, 6.5, made in West Germany. Okay. I should be checking all of these for labels. I don't know why I haven't been. Okay, I lied. There's one more pair of plain white gloves, and I left these for last because they are very damaged, and I do not think I will actually be able to fix them. And I think I'm not going to wear these. I might take them apart and take a pattern from them. That may be sacrilege, but I believe the woman who owned these wore them to death. They were probably her everyday go-to pair, and they have seen a lot of life. As I recall, there were several of the same style of very plain everyday gloves with these 3 little lines on the top of the hand, and she probably wore through these and just moved on to the next pair. So I think it would be cool to take them apart and see if I can make my own gloves. That's a project for somewhere down the line. Okay, this next pair I don't think quite qualifies as vintage, although by the strictest definition they probably are, at least 20 years old. I bought them from a bridal store I was working at when I lived in Michigan. They are a beautiful navy velvet. They are stretch velvet. Ooh, there's a tag. Carolina Amato. RN 63869. Dry clean only. I did wear these once already for my month of gloves, and I did get some dye transfer onto the blouse I wore them on top of. So, should probably save those for evening wear. Okay, next pair. I bought these from a sutler at Fort Frederick Market Fair, which is an 18th century market fair held annually in Fort Frederick, Maryland. This particular vendor, I think, had several pairs of vintage gloves, not 18th century, but I fell in love with these. I mean, how could you not? They are exquisite. These are probably my very favorite pair of gloves. The beading is just so stunning. Now this one is a little stained, and I did wash them and try to get the stain out, but to no avail. Okay, now we're getting into my leather gloves. This pair I bought at Bygones, which is a vintage store in Richmond, Virginia. And I only know that I bought these at Bygones because the tag was still on them back in January when I was looking at my gloves, and I realized I hadn't worn these yet. I have worn them now for my month of gloves, and I do really love them. I think I've worn these twice. Once again, I love blue, and I love flower embroidery. Speaking of blue, here's another navy leather pair that I got, I think, at an antique store, but I do not remember. These had a couple of popped seams, which I repaired actually in the airport when I was going to Chicago because I was going to wear them that day. I had my sewing kit with me because I had to finish my ball gown. These are a very nice pair of leather gloves. I just found another popped seam. I think the thread on these is beginning to weaken, so I may need to repair them several more times. Next is another pair of leather gloves that I also got, I believe, at an antique store. I don't remember specifically which one or when, but these are a really nice ivory pair. The leather is extremely thin. It's almost papery. These are very high quality, I think. There's a small stain on this one. I don't know how to clean it. I don't know if leather can be cleaned. If you know, please drop a comment and let me know. I love these a lot. These are a good everyday winter pair. And we're back to cotton. I also got these at an antique store. They are black, but a bit discolored in a couple spots, so they are turning to brown. But I love them so much. I love the embroidery on the cuffs with that scalloped design. They're so pretty. And it's good to have a pair of black gloves because I have a lot of white, several navy, and one pair of brown. These are my latest acquisition. I got these at an antique mall in Stanton, Virginia. near Stanton, Virginia. And I thought I should have a pair of brown gloves because I have a lot of brown in my vintage wardrobe. So these were perfect. They have delicate little scallops along the cuff, and they're a gauntlet style, so they don't get smaller at the wrist, they just flare out, which is a fun style that I don't have in any of the other gloves. Okay, so that is my collection of gloves. I hope you enjoyed. I do hear my children stirring, so I should wrap this up. I really enjoy showing off my different collections of vintage items. I hope you enjoy them as well. Let me know in the comments which pair was your favorite. As always, feel free to give me a like, and if you want to see more, definitely subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye. You probably want to know which pair I'm wearing today. I'm going to go with my favorite beaded pair, which I think goes very nicely with my hat. Kind of ecru color. Excuse you. Oh, there's a number. That's not a tag, that's a piece of masking tape, I think. And this particular vendor